Uh, let's start my last public safety meeting. Hey. Public defender.
Good evening. Just wanted to deliver my monthly report. For the month of October, the Public Defender's Office took in 106 new applications. We closed out 108 cases. We have an active caseload of 1,624 cases. And in the arraignment category, the counsel at first appearance, attorneys conducted 18 arraignments, and normal business hours, 62 arraignments were conducted by my staff and myself. And that's all I have.
Shane, any idea why the number went down so much for 2021 in October versus 19 and 20 when we were mid-pandemic and the courts were closed?
I think it's a combination of two things. The October of 2020, the courts were opening again, so there was a huge backlog of cases, and I would say the majority, at least of the criminal cases applications we get, I would put a high number, a high percentage we actually get when those people walk into court the first time. As far as the other side of it, a fair amount of people are just not coming to court. And under the bail statutes, it's very specific about how many times someone needs not to appear in court before a judge can issue a warrant. And by that time, a few months may have gone by, depending on where the person is from. They may be gone for good. That is some speculation, but I think that makes a lot of sense. And I was thinking about that too.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, Shane. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone.
Uh, 911.
Good evening, everyone. I have a resolution request to accept the 2020 statewide interoperable communications grant totaling $454,749 and disperse in accordance with the State Homeland Security and Emergency Services guidelines. There's no match required from Columbia County, and the budget is requested for 2022.
I'll move it.
I'm seconded.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
And the only thing else I have is our agency data just for incoming calls for the month of October was 4,484 calls. I don't have all the other statistical information that I usually provide or the data, just because we were down at the time my agenda was due. So I'll forward that on for the next meeting.
Hey, Rob, is it typical to have a 2-year delay in these grants, or was it COVID related that we're just getting 2020 monies for 2022?
COVID related with the delays just coming out of the state.
Okay, thanks.
Rob, thanks for that effort on behalf of COPIC. I wanted to be the one to make the motion, but I was muted. Sorry, I missed my moment. I missed my moment. But anyway, thank you from COPIC.
Okay.
All right. Fire coordinator.
Good evening, folks. I just have an updated activity report for the office year to date as of October 31st. You can see what we've been busy doing, and I'm proud or glad to report that, or both, that our classroom usage and tower usage is been very busy, and we've had a pretty successful year out there for training. So it's getting well used, and we anticipate that to increase even more. So thank you for that.
Awesome.
Supervisor Benvenuto, enjoy your retirement, sir.
Thank you, sir. Maybe I'll pop out and say hey once in a while.
I'd be glad to have you. Just make sure we're there. That's all.
I thought he said he was gonna volunteer to be a firefighter.
That would be. We'd love to have him. We've got just the seat for him.
I never hear the siren. I don't wake up, so I'm
No problem. We have technology that deals with that now.
I was going to ask him to be the afternoon greeter at 4:01.
We'll figure something out. Thank you. Emergency management.
Okay, actually, this is a resolution that I put forward, and
Go.
Oh, wait a minute.
These people.
I'm sorry.
That was Ron Caponero.
Actually, this is a resolution that I put forward, and it's a resolution to make the Emergency Management Office a freestanding department. Right now, it's currently under the Sheriff's Department, and I'll explain why. Whenever we have an emergency, me being chairman, or whoever's the chairman, is the person that has to declare the states of emergency and are in regular and constant contact with our emergency management office. The sheriff's office is rarely involved. There is space there that we utilize, but what we're proposing is to move the emergency management office to the emergency training center. There is office space out there that has been made available for them when we built the training center, or we remodeled the training center. And it makes a lot more sense. We met with Don Kraft probably a week and a half ago because I obviously did not want to blindside him with this, and I'll let Dave Harrison can jump in. He was okay with the idea. He knew that there wasn't, as an incoming sheriff, there wasn't a heck of a lot. It's up to the board to make that decision, but I think he was pleased with the idea that he would have the office space out there if we move the emergency management out. So Dave, do you have anything you want to add?
Chairman, thank you. I just want to point out that this will put us back in line with all the other counties in New York State. I'm told by the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services, or excuse me, the Department of Homeland Security, that we're the only county now that is part of a sheriff's office. Back when it happened, if you remember, in 2011, the bottom had dropped out of the market, and consolidation was the word, and there was money saved when it consolidated. Now we're the last county in New York State, from what I'm told, that is in this situation, and everyone that I've spoken to with emergency services on the county level agrees with it. All the deputy directors of emergency management agrees with it, as does Rob Lopez, who is a deputy director. And I just think it's a good move. I thought we did have a good meeting with the sheriff-elect, and we will continue to be a very close partner with the sheriff's office. That's best for the county, and certainly some of the assets that the sheriff's office provides are written into some of the county emergency plans. This move will basically take along the money that's already dedicated to emergency management within the sheriff's budget and move it into the independent department. So there's no cost to the county. There's a significant amount of money, upwards of $65,000, that would stay with the sheriff's office for maintenance agreements for some important programs that the sheriff's office runs in their civil, corrections, and law enforcement divisions. But basically, if you all have 6 hours that you'll never get back, if you want to read Article 2B of the New York State Executive Law, the chairman of the board has the ultimate responsibility of making countywide decisions when there's a large scale emergency. So, we've worked directly with the chairman, and that's the situation in all the other counties in Columbia County. So I feel it's a good move. And, if you have any questions, I'll surely be here to answer them.
Kippy, you had your hand up.
Yeah, Mike, I think it's a great move for the county. It should have been done years ago. I think we've talked about it over the years. We should separate it out, especially now as emergency management seems to be getting bigger for the county. Separated out of the sheriff's office. We have the room for them. We built the building for that purpose, that we could get these guys together. So my feeling is it'd be something we should really vote on and get it passed. So I'll make a motion to accept that.
I have a question.
Tistria.
Yeah, so 2 questions. The first is a logistical question. So it says upon recommendation of the Public Works Committee at a meeting that hasn't happened yet, I feel uncomfortable passing a resolution that has wording, and then it says of the Finance Committee. So first of all, what does Public Works have to do with this?
Absolutely nothing. It should not have been. I don't believe
It should say public safety. It was an
Oh,
arrow.
okay, held tonight. So that should be tonight's date.
Yep.
Okay, I was so confused. Second question is about the timing. This does sound like a good idea to me. I'm just wondering, because I've been on public safety for almost 2 years, and I know Kippy said we've talked about it before. This is the first I've heard of it. I know that we've had conversations about physically moving the physical location, but this is the first I'm hearing about removing kind of the oversight from the sheriff's office. I'm wondering, timing wise, how long has this discussion been happening as far as emergency management reporting directly to the chairman? And is there a huge rush if we were to wait another 2 months? We have a new sheriff coming in, and although I hear the chairman say that he's spoken with him directly, I would love to hear his input. And I'm wondering if it doesn't make sense. We don't even have the outgoing sheriff here at the meeting to kind of hear from the sheriff's office in support or opposed. So the difference between passing it at our November meeting, therefore our December full board meeting, versus waiting till we have the sheriff-elect in office and can, as a public safety committee, hear his input and have a conversation with him. Have we been working on it for so long and I just haven't heard about it? Or is this really a new conversation, and could it wait till we have a new sheriff-elect having input on it?
I have been thinking about it for a while, ever since this pandemic started. I actually thought about it prior to the pandemic started because, again, whenever there's been a state of emergency, I've been involved as chairman, and again, it's not just me, whoever's the chairman would have been involved. David Harrison and I, talk regularly about these emergency issues. As you know, Supervisor Hoatling, on our EOC calls, the sheriff is rarely on those calls. It's usually, the committee, myself, Jack Mabb, the supervisors that serve on it, and, whoever else is on that committee. So it's made sense for me for a while. No matter if Sheriff Bartlett would have won the election, I would have had this very same conversation with him that I had with Sheriff-elect Kraft. I just think it makes sense. Again, if you look at statewide, there are no other sheriff's department that have emergency management as part of it. Our emergency medical services, our 911, and our fire coordinator are not part of the sheriff's department. They're freestanding, and I believe emergency management should be freestanding. We can, there's going to be a couple of other bites at the apple here in terms of the finance committee meeting and the full board meeting. But I think that part of the reason we want to do it now is that through this budget process, even though it's not going to increase the bottom line budget, we can separate it out as a separate line items in the budget versus having to do it after we pass a budget. And Ron Caponera, I believe, is on this as well, and he can address that.
Yeah, well, emergency management's always been its own cost center, 3650. It's always been its own cost center with its own line item budget. So you're just moving a couple of numbers from back and forth between the sheriff's office 3110 to 3640. That's not a problem. It's all part of public safety and the chart of accounts. So it's always been its own cost center since get-go.
Yeah, so I mean, there's no doubt that this should have been done. We're the only county. Are we going to argue to maintain status quo if we're the only county that still does it this way? We have the new training center up and running, so that brings it up as to moving it out there. There'll actually be more room, and I know they can use it at the sheriff's department. I know the timing for some people comes into play. I fully understand that, but it's kind of hard to argue that we need to be the only county that maintains it this way. Michael Chimides.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate the discussion. It feels a little rushed to me to hear, like we're just hearing about the idea of creating a new department, moving one to another. And it just feels like I would like to do some more research. I know I'm not voting on this tonight. And I think there is sort of like there's a national trend around defunding police departments and sort of moving sections of the police department to a separate department. And I think there's maybe some value to that, but I also think it's worth taking our time and really analyzing these decisions. A couple things that I just also want to make sure that we have this equivalent facts. I just did a quick Google search, and I don't know if the website is accurate, but the Albany County Emergency Management Office is like embedded within the Albany County Sheriff's website. So it's one of those things where I'm just hearing for the first time, but I just want to, super confirm that we've actually checked to hear that we're the only county, and also to hear from other counties that made this transition, what worked, what didn't work, what things would you want to do when you do that. Was it successful? It seems like there's like some little bit of research that I think would benefit. And I also question whether the sheriff-elect approved this proposal. And I would want to dial into that and be like, is that true? And I guess I'll share my skepticism that the sheriff-elect approves of this plan. And I think it makes sense to have an ongoing research about this.
I'm confused. Are you saying Chairman Morrell didn't meet with the sheriff-elect and have a discussion with him?
I guess I don't really know, but I would say that I don't know what happened at the meeting, but I would say that based on my conversations, I did not get the sense that the sheriff-elect approved of this. And, my sense was that the sheriff-elect is not the sheriff right now, and the sheriff-elect isn't making these kinds of statements, but that there wasn't a sense of approval. There was a sense of like, let's look into this, let's do some research. That was my sense. So I think if we're gonna pass it based off of like a third party, what we're hearing other people say, I think it would behoove us to hear that directly before we assume what a third party said or took a stance on.
Chairman Benvenuto, could I just weigh in? I know other hands are up, but I think this is relevant to what Michael's saying. So I did just text Sheriff-elect Don Krapp, and I said, the chairman spoke to you, and he said, we did speak, and I am not in favor of moving anything at this time. I said, can I say that in the meeting? He said, yes. So again, it says at this time. I think he's asking to wait till he takes office and then have the conversation, and I would strongly support that. I think it's important to include him in the conversation.
PJ?
Okay, I don't want to get intertwined here, but one of the questions that came out, how long was this been discussed? I've been EMS quarter since the year 2000. Emergency management was always on the level with fire EMS. Emergency management was always independent. And when 2011 came along, I have to tell you, I strongly objected it going underneath the sheriff's department because it was kind of an anomaly. The direction in emergency services is just the opposite. Emergency management really should respond directly to the Board of Supervisors. And in many counties, the structure of emergency management is many counties have a full-time position as emergency management, and fire, EMS, and 911 fall under emergency management in many counties. That's the direction that emergency service is heading. And, I strongly believe that moving it out of the sheriff's department and back to the independent organization that it should be, because emergency management covers all jurisdictions, towns, villages, all these organizations, and you see what they've done in the past and a sample of it. So, I would, like I did in 2011, strongly support that it stay independent and answer directly to the board and to the chairman.
Kippy again.
Yes, Mike, and I don't know if you remember, but back in the day, and for the new supervisors, back when I was on board, I was on the committee to build the new training center, and the whole discussion was to make the training center bigger for this to happen. It was back 8 years ago that when we started this process of discussing and going through this with all the other supervisors, that's what the plan was, is to get emergency management all under one roof to make it more better for everything else and separate the sheriff out so the sheriff can do his job and they can work together with the firemen, stuff like that. I don't understand why we're talking about to wait to move this. To me, you're talking 4 or 5 people to move into a building to do the job they've been trained to do, and we're set up to do that. I mean, whether the sheriff has an input or not, I don't think that's the way it should work. I know he can work with the sheriff, but he can always work with the sheriff. So I just wanted to let everybody know that we have discussed this and we've been working on this for a very long time.
David Harrison, hands up.
Thanks. I actually, PJ and Supervisor Weigelt answered or mentioned much of what I wanted to say. The oversight from the sheriff is really minimal. We operate a lot on our own. However, it does put in another step that we have to go through when we're trying to make decisions and handle certain things. We have to go to the sheriff, then we have to go to the chairman, and when in reality, not overstepping the sheriff's authority by law, but the law is clear that the chairman has the final say in a lot of things that have to do with countywide emergency management decisions. So again, the experience has been that at some point this was going to go back. I did speak with Bill Black, who was the director previously. He agrees that it should go back. And I just think it's, for many reasons, it's the best move. And I really have not seen or heard other than the political part that you guys are putting up, I have not heard a negative reason not to do it.
Okay, 2 more supervisors because we're sitting on a motion. So Supervisor Hoatling.
The sheriff-elect just says he needs more information and the ability to make a data-driven decision. I realize it's not his decision, it's a board decision. With everything I've heard at this meeting, I think it probably does make sense for it not to be under the sheriff, but my request is that, we allow the current department that's overseeing it to have input and be part of the conversation. I think that is the right way to go about a change like this, even if it's a change that's been thought about for a long time. We have a sheriff-elect that would like to be part of the conversation. And so I would ask this committee not move forward with this. From this conversation, listening to, the chairman and PJ and David Harrison and Kippy, it does sound like it likely does make sense to do this. But I just don't feel like it needs to be a rush. If we've been talking about it for 8 years, what's another 2 months, right? When we have a department head, an elected official who currently oversees this department that is saying, I would like to be able to do some research. I would like, data to be able to make a decision. And I think that that's the right thing to do.
Supervisor Mettler.
Yeah, I guess I'm agreeing with what Tistria just said, because based on everything that everyone has said, my guess is it's the right thing to do. If Matt Murrell says that Don Kraft said to him, it's okay with me, then I'll bet that that's what Don Kraft said. I don't think that that's the issue. I think that the issue is that we're now getting some report back from the sheriff-elect that he would like input. And in view of that, and in trying to get off on to put the best foot forward come January, where we all come together behind the newly elected sheriff, which is what I assume that we all want to do. Why don't we just give him that and say, let's get back to this in January? So I would oppose it, not because I think it's a bad idea. I'm sure it's been thought about for years, but then that makes it all the more questionable. Why would we do it now? So that would be my view on it. I think the better course right now would be just to take a pause, come back to this in January, and in all likelihood go forward with it at that time. So that's my view.
Okay, we have a motion by Kippy Weigel. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's an aye for me. Just to move it on. I mean, it would eventually be in the hands of the full board if we do that. Kelly, you'll have to count those opposed.
Sorry, I'm muted. Nay.
Nay.
So we need, let's see, we have 4 yays and 2 nays. And we haven't heard from Stats or Mia.
Yeah.
Me is a nay, correct?
Yes.
Is he a nay or yay?
Nay.
He's a nay.
Nay, okay.
Is Supervisor Stats on?
Yes, and I'd just like to say, listening to all the discussions, putting the time aside, putting the politics aside, this is the right thing to do, and we need to move forward. I know people don't like it because it looks a little funny, the time looks a little funny, but this is the right thing to do. It should have been done before now. We're finally getting to it, and I don't think anything the sheriff says one way or the other would determine us not doing it. So I would like to say yes.
All right, I believe we need 5 votes to vote. it
So you
down.
have 5 yays and 3 nays.
Okay,
So it'll be moved to finance.
okay. All right. Thank you.
So we have one resolution left. It's for the Traffic Safety Board. Authorization to appoint a member from the Traffic Safety Board from the town of Livingston. I believe their current person is left and they're appointing Paul Johns IV as a representative on the Traffic Safety Board.
I'll move it, Morel.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
And that's it, Chairman.
all right. Thank you all.
All righty.
You need a
Make a
motion?
motion.
Good evening.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'm certainly not going to oppose it.
Thank you, Mike, for your.
Bye, Mike.
Bye.
Bye.